Good day, everybody in YouTube world. This is Earth Particle, also known as Patrick. My name is Patrick, and I am here for an overview slash, I guess I could call it a review because I have used this knife. But this is the Custom Knife Factory, CKF. This is the Evo 4.0. I have a couple things that crinkling sound is the bag of hardware we'll take a look at. But here it is. This is the full DLC version. Let's get a close look. This is the barked finish on the titanium. I wanted to get a video on this because I have seen other videos on YouTube, and actually most of the ones that I could find were on the DLC version, so I was kind of hoping to get more. There were a couple people had other versions like the hand satin and the machine satin, but I picked this one up on Reddit. There's John Sorensen's mark there. Now, if you haven't watched other videos on this, let me fill you in. I do believe, though, we've got titanium construction with that dark wash titanium milled clip. We've got the, I believe, steel hardware. Is it steel hardware? I think it's steel hardware. Anyway, so yeah, and then of course the DLC on everything. So yeah, Zerk backspacer, I believe, zirconium backspacer, 4.6 ounces. I weighed it, I think right about 4.6. Weigh it again. Okay, anyway, here. Okay, let's get that so you can actually read it. It was 4.6, wasn't it? Yeah, 4.59 on my scale, which seems to be pretty true. My scale does. Yeah, 4.59. So 4.59 ounces. Not bad, considering how kind of chunky and beefy it is. If I can, I'll include a picture of it taken apart. You might have already seen the other videos, people take it apart, but there is considerable milling on the inside. You can see it there. There we go. A lot of milling on the inside. And then, of course, the action is reconculous. You can tune the action to just fall shut. But I like it's. You can tune it to this controlled shut, which being overhead, you can't really see as well. It's super smooth. I've got it just a smidge tighter so it doesn't fall. Now, if I do it, let it directly fall, it actually doesn't get me. Some people say it gets them. It hits my cuticle of my thumb, but I've looked at it even under magnification, and even after hitting it over and over and over, it's not making any mark on my thumb. So I don't know if that's just a quirk of the way my particular hand interacts with the way this blade falls, or maybe when I sharpen it, you know, maybe that part will start getting me. I'm not sure, but as of right now, it doesn't bother me at all. Okay, so kind of just the first impressions I got when holding my hand was how easy it is to manipulate, because these blade stops, you can use as a thumb stud, you can reverse flick, you can flick off of the front hole if you want. Very, very versatile. The hollow grind comes down to this screaming sharp edge. That's one of the really, really nice hallmarks of this blade. Check this out. Let me hold two hands so I don't shake. That is a mean edge, man. I measured it at, I think it was 15. I want to say 15 or 16 thousandths behind the edge, I think is what I measured. Along a few spots. That's kind of what I ended up with. So anyway, all right, well, hey, let's do some size comparisons. I'm getting hot in here. I had to turn the fan off to do this video so you didn't hear background noise. Okay, so some size comparisons. Here's a Civivi Elementum. This is only like a 7.6 inch knife. This is like actually like a reasonable size, and that's the main reason that the Evo 2.0 and 3.0 kind of turned me off, was because of they're just a little big for me. 8 inches is about the highest I like to go, but right here, right about, oops, bumped the tripod, about 7.5, maybe just a hair over. Anyway, so there's the Elementum. I mean, you look at, does not dwarf the Elementum. I think this is mostly pretty much straight down, looking straight down, so I don't think there's going to be like a weird parallax or whatever that thing is that happens. We should be okay. Here's a pair 3. That's crazy. It's not really all that much bigger than the pair 3. It's really not. Look at the blade length. Usable blade length on this. Oh shoot, I forget what the blade length and cutting edge on this. Oof. Did I measure that? I know I had done it before. Okay, so blade length, this is kind of just roughing it here. 3.25, maybe 3.3. And then the cutting edge maybe 3 1/8 or something, you know, somewhere in there, like 3.15 or something like that cutting edge. It's really good. It's actually great for how compact it is when it folds. It's kind of like the Sharp by Design knives, how you get so much blade and somehow this small handle. Okay, here's the Delica, right? The obligatory Spyderco Delica. Well, wow, really good camera work there. Okay, so yeah, the Delica, even the Delica. Now, of course, it's deceiving because it has more like hand presence than the Delica does. We'll do a couple more. Here's the Benchmade 940 and the Benchmade Bug Out. Yes, I do have Grivery scales. I seem to be like the only person on earth who's okay with Grivery scales. Not that I probably would. I have another Bug Out with titanium scales I customized. I did the Anno. But I don't know. I kind of dig the Grivery. I'm a crazy person. Whatever. All right. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, and then the last one I wanted to show, I had the Kunwu Padre, which would have been a really good comparison because the blade shape is very similar. But I thought this was interesting. This is the ProTech PT Plus. So this is like the little guy, the Magna Cut. This is an exclusive for some site. I can't remember who had it. It might have been American Blade or American Edge, maybe. Anyway, yeah. If you go butt to butt, yeah, of course the PT Plus is a very small guy. Great ergos for such a little knife too. But I don't know, kind of stridery. I think Metal Complex in his review of like the 2.0 or 3.0 said it's kind of stridery, and it kind of is. Anyway, so there's some size comparisons for you. Yeah, kind of looking over it again here. The most striking thing about it to me, other than the full DLC, which really you kind of have to see it in person. It doesn't have the polish that some of the previous releases did. But I kind of like that. It's almost like more matte. It seems like it'd be easier to kind of keep smudges off of it. It does kind of get smudged up a little bit, but not... You can see little shadows if you touch it with your finger, but it's really not that bad. Now, okay, so here we go. I've had this for about a week. I have used it to cut down a couple cardboard boxes and like some cereal boxes and stuff like that. And it worked phenomenally. It would cut through great, even though the blade stock is thicker. It's like 177 thousandths. It cut right through it, no problem. That blade just wedges through anything I put it on. And it's S90V on this one. I believe this is the first Evo that's not an M390 or Dama, unless there's some other. I'm pretty sure it's the first one they've done S90V. Anyway, yeah, so this is the price on this one was $720 from NC Blade. I actually got a really good deal on this unused. It was considered unused, uncut, and a guy on Reddit gave me a really, really good deal on it, which I thought was really cool. And now I love it so much. The kind of main reason I'm making this video is because I fall in love with it so much that I'm now looking for a plain Jane. My first choice for a second one of these would be the plain Jane version. I just love the way that looks. And then the hand rub satin would be awesome too, because the pivot color on that is awesome, and it's got the dark handle with like the lighter blade. I love that. So I'm kind of looking for one of those. So it's been a while since a knife kind of blew me away so much. Especially, this is a definitely more expensive knife than most of what I buy. I mean, I've had some Rosies. I still have a Rosie. But this is definitely on the higher end, but it absolutely warrants the price when you see how well it's made. I mean, just the finish alone. Now I have a monochrome Zircuti clip being made for me by Johnny T on Instagram. He's going to make me that kind of black and silver looking Zircuti clip that a lot of people have. I think that'll look phenomenal on this, and he does it for a pretty reasonable price. So I am going to have that made for it, but probably should sell some knives to help kind of pay for this, or especially if I get a second one. You know how it goes. But anyway, one other thing I did want to mention, some people have mentioned this in the overviews, but I don't know for sure that I've seen anybody get into detail. The extra stuff that they include in the bag is wild. Like, there's so much stuff in here. There are 3 pivot screw assemblies. I'm talking female and male pivot. Look, one. There's a second. That is bananas to me that there are 3. Look, there's one more. There's a screw. And there's one more. Here. That's just the pivot. Just the pivot screw. I don't think that's a fluke for me. I don't know. But anyway, I ended up with 3 of those barrels. It came with a spare lock bar insert and lock bar insert screw, spare body screws, spare blade stops, spare washers for the bearings, spare bearings, which by the way are done like skiff bearings. They don't have like the little cup in them that a lot of bearings do. In fact, I bought skiffs and put them on here. When I took it apart to put the skiffs on, I said, oh, I might as well have not even bought skiffs because these bearings are done the same way that skiffs do theirs. But of course, skiffs are great. And this gives me spares of these and the other set. So it's just awesome. Like I've seen extra stuff given, but not to this extent. That's pretty wild. So make sure not to get these smacking on each other too much. Anyway, but yeah, so probably probably the biggest surprise so far, just in general, is the DLC holding up the way it does. Because I've cut a couple cardboard boxes, and I have some other like PVD coated knives that are like have like these permanent striations on them from where I've cut. At least as far as I think they're permanent. I've got like the Migron Moirol, for example, and that has a PVD coating that I've done some cutting with, and now it's got like these faint shiny spots from where it's been when it cut through things that don't really seem to go away. I just wiped this off with a Pena microfiber cloth, and I mean I don't see any like little marks. I feel like this coating is a lot more durable than it looks like, even for DLC. I don't know. And I've had this in my front pocket where when I sit in this chair over here, the arm of the chair, like for example, on my Varga Mark IV, my 3 1/4 inch Varga, the pocket clip has got some scratches from that chair. I know exactly where the scratches came from, that chair. And this has been in my pocket a few times in that chair. And it's not like the worst thing ever, that chair for clips, but it does scratch clips. And I don't see anything. My screen has got some glare on it right now, but I don't see anything in there. Oh, other people said their 4.0s had the centering was off. Mine is bang on, unless I'm just not seeing it right, but that looks bang on to me. And that even if I loosen the pivot a little bit so it drops shut, that doesn't make any difference on the centering on this one. Okay, so my biggest gripe so far, I think my only gripe, other than the price, could be cheaper, of course, is there's no detent ramp. There's no, or maybe if there is a detent ramp, it's only just the very faintest afterthought. Check this out. So I took this apart. I took the blade and I kind of like half-assedly ran a diamond file along where the detent slides off, where the ball slides off. I've done that on other knives. I've done more intensely on other knives. On this one, I just wanted to kind of skate off any possible burr that might be there. If you've ever taken a lot of knives apart, you'll know that sometimes where the lock geometry, where the lock face is, there'll be a burr, like from where it was ground in factory. And like that burr can cause major issues. It can actually rip your detent ball out if it's really bad. This didn't have that. It was rounded a little bit, ever so slightly, but you can listen. I haven't heard anybody mention this in any of the reviews. Now, it's better than it was when I got it. And even without me scraping, I mean, I'm talking, I took the file and did like 5 single direction scrapes. It was like the very slightest little modification. And I think it did help make it break in faster than it would have if I didn't do that. I think I probably took off 500 to 700 openings and closings having to do it manually by skating that along. So it feels a lot better now. And it wasn't bad before, but to get past the detent and to get up on the ledge, if you've installed a detent ramp before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then you've at least, you got to know what I'm talking about if you have knives. Now, if you're not careful, the blade will want to slide off that shelf and go boop and double clutch on you. But if you get it past far enough, this has to go a little further, right about there, which that's pretty far. I don't know what angle that is, but going like this, if you call it like that, what is that, like a 150 degree angle or something like that, 140 degree angle. So I'd like it to get past the detent ball, or for the detent ball to get up on the ledge higher than this. If you look at any Sharp by Design knife and how the little detent nub that he uses goes, like his knives are off, or I'm sorry, I keep saying that, his knives get onto the ledge at like 10 degrees maybe, or somewhere in there, 10, 15 degrees possibly. So, but this, because of the way it falls when you hit the lock bar, it really does make it past that every time anyway. So it's really a non-issue. So that's like a really big nitpick. But that's like the only thing about this knife. Listen, I don't know how well it comes across on camera when you open and close it, but listen to the, here, and I'll do it quietly. it's smooth, guys. The multi-row bearings is real smooth. Among the smoothest. It's among the smoothest high-end production knives I've had. The current Rosie I have is actually the best for action of the few that I've owned. And it's not milled. It's just a dark washed titanium non-milled handle. And I sold the Golf Putter Silver Surfer and the radial frag I had that had the blue anno like in the frag lines, which were sick. But I sold those two and kept the regular titanium one because the action is so killer. Even the other ones were great, but that wasn't as good as this. So for whatever reason, it's the first Rosie I ever bought. Just to bring it up. And I've kept this one and I've modified it. I got the Zircon clip and stuff. But yeah, I kept this instead of the Golf Putter or the frag. Everybody always wants milled Rosies because just the way this one feels, this just has it's the most satisfying snackety action. And the other ones I had were good, but they weren't like this. This is number 1174. So if I was going to get another Rosie, I might even just try to get one from this, within that range, that number range. I'm sure they're all great. I've had most of the three that I've had were from like, 1100 or higher number wise. Anyway, so there's the Rosie, and I might as well do size comparisons since I've got it here. So here's Evo 4.0. By the way, as far as I know, I'm going to mention this, the Evo T that was released at the same time as the 4.0 here, I've seen people post the Evo T for sale as Evo 4.0 T, which to my understanding is not the case. The Evo T is bigger. It's like closer in size to, I think, the Evo 2.0 or maybe even the 3.0. It's big. Like, I think it's over 8 inches. So I feel like that's a bit misleading to say Evo 4.0 T because I think they released together, but they're two completely separate knife models. Anyway, that's what I think. I don't know for sure, but that's what it feels like. So, well, I tell you what. I'm running over here, and I don't know why I'm doing it right now. Putting some of the size comparison knives back, so I may edit some of that out. But, yeah. So, one of the things I want to mention, right, here's the pouch I showed earlier. Of course, we got the extra hardware I showed you, but other videos will see this too. You get a microfiber. It does have CKF in the corner. It's like a sippy cloth, just orange, and this is CKF instead. It's nice. It's a really nice one. Here we go. See, Evo 4 / Evo T. Separate things. Evo T is much bigger. So here's the John Sorensen. This one's an S90V. They also have Damn Steel Madcore. Some of these handles are absolutely artistic. I mean, just masterpieces in my opinion, but those are like 1 of 1 or 1 of 5. Most of those, if you look on like NC Blade. Anyways, this is number 371, March of 24, signed there. The cloth, and if you want to see it, and maybe you didn't see it in another video. So there's the CKF, nice like orange CKF cloth. Anyways, so, all right. We'll get that crap put away. So, okay, well, I think I just shot my rubber band across. Now, here we go. Anyway, so this is kind of getting long, and I've been kind of meandering a little bit here with this and that. I tell you what, though, one thing I did want to say is months ago, and I'm so sporadic about uploading, months ago I made a checklist of stuff to talk about when I look at knives. I have had it taped to my little rolling table for a while, and what I should do is put it up on my tripod and talk about the stuff that I mentioned on the note. So let's take a look at what I had written as a guideline for things to talk about when you're doing an overview from like a year ago. So let's see what it says. All right. Okay, knife review / overview checklist. Okay, so materials. We talked about materials. We've got this dark washed, or this barked titanium, zirconium backspacer, I think all steel hardware, and then we've got S90V blade here. Measurements and size comparisons we did, right? Deployment method, we've got thumb stud in the hole. hardware. Oh, by the way, this is a T20 for the pivot, and these are T10s on the body screws. They are all either T10 or this T20. And I thought I heard somebody say something about this being a captive pivot. This is not a captive pivot on this, and you can see on the extra pivots that I brought out actually. So I did put a little bit of Loctite on here, but you got to do the whole like push the blade down trick to take it off, or you might have to apply heat. So just beware of that. If you want to put Loctite on it, just be mindful that you could have some trouble getting it off of there, since there's no tooling on the female pivot, just so you know. Not a deal breaker at all for me. Maybe with some knives it would be, but for something like this, I actually put a fair bit of Loctite the first time I did it. And I was a little bit worried, and it was kind of tough to get off because the thing is that I haven't heard anybody mention is the screw head is a little shallow. It's a little shallow. I wish it could really kind of dig in deeper. But if this were to get messed up, I've got 3 extra pivot assemblies that they gave me, so I'm not that worried about it. But anyway, it is a little bit shallow, and if you have a lot of Loctite, cured in there, you may have to really kind of give the blade a good flex. But I did get it. I didn't have to apply heat. It was okay. I was using relatively new Loctite Blue 242 gel, just to give you an idea. Anyway, so there you go. Next thing on the list that I have, ergos, which, I mean, come on, ergos and hot spots. I don't really have any hot spots on this. It's not the most comfortable knife I've ever handled, but it's far from the worst. And I would have to say it's probably, just sheer comfort in hand, it's probably in the top 5. The Ferrum Forge Exec, probably the most comfortable knife I've ever held in my hand, maybe one of the most. That and the Ferrum Forge Archbishop. There's 2 Ferrum Forges that make that list. They're really, really great. The Oz Roosevelt may be the best. This might be second behind the Rosie. And then, what is another one that's got really good ergos? Like something that's not even like for example, like the Sharp by Design Mini Evo. Great ergonomics on that knife. And then you know what's got great ergos? The Benchmade Mini Freak, the Mini Super Freak. That's ridiculous. Look, check this out. I'm a big dude. I'm like 6'4". I've lost a lot of weight, but I was close to 300 now. I found out today I'm at like 260, which is wild. I haven't even been exercising, just eating less. But I am off all over the place here today. I hope you're okay with that, whoever's watching. But anyway, this knife, just real quick, you got to put the red thumb stud on to match. Benchmade, use the red thumb stud. You're doing red on the inside. Use the red thumb stud. Don't make me do that. Don't make me have to do it. They come with a black thumb stud on here. It should not be the case. Anyway, ergos on this Mini Super Freak are amazing. Anyway, Benchmade had really disappointed me with their pricing and stuff lately. So I got like this love-hate thing with Benchmade. And anyway, the Mini Super Freak, M4, it kind of blew me away. And actually not a bad size comparison, believe it or not. Yeah, it's actually not a bad size comparison. Obviously considerably smaller, but anyway, very impressed with this knife. Got the gray pocket clip I put on there too. It looks good. Anyway, all right, cool. Yeah, I am like ADHD to the max today. Anyway, so, okay, other stuff. Yeah, blade shape, utility, we talked about that. We talked about, by the way, the clip. To talk about the functionality on the clip specifically, this is a fantastic clip. What a great job. Okay, I tend to like my clips tighter. So in many, many cases, I end up tightening pocket clips. This goes for like steel clips, titanium clips. I don't care if it's milled or not. Like if it needs to be tighter, especially at the nice of the knife, I don't want it coming out of my pocket, I will bend the clip, usually not in a way that it's visible, but you can feel that it's tighter. This didn't need that at all. And because the shape is pretty much perfect. Like it holds just tight enough. It's deep too. It's, you got a little bit sticking out. It's not too bad, but it's deep in terms of you have a lot of overlap holding that into your pocket, and it holds tight enough, it's still easy to get out. So that's a huge win. The acoustics great, and how it feels in pocket. I mean, it is a little bit bigger. It's got like the carry profile of like the Pair 3 or the PM2, like with that taller, in this dimension, but it's hardly a big deal at all. Of course, the value on this is not particularly great considering what you can find out there in the $50 to $100 range nowadays, but that's not what this is about. This knife is for people who want, more, or they want to spend more. Availability on these, you can't buy these right now from any vendors in the US that I know of. NC Blade seems to be the first to get them when they come in. There's a couple Evo T's still available on NC Blade's site, but remember that is not just simply a Tonto version of this knife. That's not what the Evo T is. Make sure if you're looking at the Evo T, and it is awesome, if you like Tontos especially, I mean, it's such a cool looking blade. But just remember, look at the size of the knife before you order it, because it's not just an Evo 4.0 T. Those are bigger. There's a comparison video. Somebody, I forget who it was. I want to give them credit. Somebody did a comparison video of the Evo 2, 3, 4, and Evo T. And you can see in that video, the Evo T is bigger than the Evo 4.0. So, all right, well, I guess, you know, you can get them on the secondary market like I got mine. You know, can it be modded for aftermarket parts? I put on the list here. No, not really. This is the kind of knife that looks so good. You can do mod work to it. Like I said, I'm having a clip made by Johnny T, so you can find ways to modify it in different ways. And then I put a note on here about warranty info. Well, I mean, your warranty pretty much is your extra parts and here. And of course, if you do anything else to it, you could probably contact CKF and maybe for a price, replace a blade if you break, you know, if you break a blade or break a tip off or, you know, whatever. So I'm not sure about that. That's kind of interesting, especially having to be international. If you had to send it back to them, I don't know how that would work exactly, but yeah, I don't imagine this knife would be breaking. It's not dainty. This is not a dainty knife. Not super duper heavy, but man, you want to talk about, it's just so comfortable and so useful. So I ran this on my sharp maker. By the way, it was super sharp when I got it, but I ran it down. This is set to 20 or 40 inclusive right now. So I just ran it down the sharp maker. I'm not going to do it right now, but I ran it down super lightly, like 4 times on each side, alternating, I think. And oh my God, man, like it was already sharp. Here, I don't usually do you don't usually do cut tests in video. I don't think anyway. Well, here, we'll do it today. So this is just a few swipes on a fine ceramic rod, the sharp maker rod. It's actually kind of cutting more loudly than I'd like, which means it's getting a little bit more. It's pretty good. Not a lot of tufts. I don't know how many of you examine the quality of your cuts after, but not too many little tufts or anything. I don't think it's the sharpest knife I've got right now, but it's absolutely enough. Now, I think I did strop it after cutting down a couple of boxes, but I mean, this is S90V we're talking about. This should hold, if you've got it apexed correctly, then this blade should hold an edge for an extremely long time. I mean, we're talking S90V. We're talking mega edge retention on this. So anyway, so that's the full DLC Evo 4.0. I'm trying to think if there's any other like ways to look at it that I missed. Here's how it looks like that. And of course, knocking stuff over here. And of course, you got your lock face down in here. And I like to keep, I don't know about y'all, but I like to keep my lock face clean as much as possible. Oh, by the way, here's a trick that I taught myself. And maybe everybody, and on this one, you don't even need it. Look, you can look at the lock face and tell how far your true lockup is. Because sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but when I'm looking like this, it's deceiving. Now, in this case, it actually looks like it actually is as far over as it looks like on the back, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it looks like it's barely grabbing on, in my experience. And then you look here and it's like, oh no, it really is going over pretty far. If you see where it's kind of shiny in that very corner, this is interesting. Here, check this out. If you look right in that corner right there, see that shiny spot? That is how far over the lock is. So if I go over the very edge of the white of the pencil is on the top edge of the pencil is on the very edge of where it locks up. So that looks to me about 35%, somewhere in there. Anyway, another way you can do it if you can't see it is to color it in with graphite from a pencil. So color in this whole area here, and then open and close your knife 5-10 times, and then look at what was removed. And then that can give you an idea of not just how far you are locked up, but the quality of your lockup, if it looks like there's not a lot of contact being made right there, or there's not a lot of contact being made deeper onto the face, like if it's more shallow, and if it's a little bit more, if it's barely grabbing on, then you have more likely to have a failure with a spine whack or trying to reverse it out of. I just put this back in my pocket. Whoop, so that's how easy it is to get out of your pocket. Anyway, yeah. So like, because I mean, if you're cut into something really thick, and then I go to yank it out backwards, a lot of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But you go to pull it out, and if your lock fails, on this knife it might not be as bad. You probably just get pinched if you're in the choked up grip. This thing is so smooth I can't even get it to stay disengaged when I do this. But if it were to fail, then it might pinch you. You might get hit on your finger a little bit, but it's not going to be dire. And also, by the way, never going to happen on this knife. The lockup is great. By the way, here. Yeah. I hit that pretty hard, actually. Not going anywhere. Anyway, so, yeah, I just thought I'd mention it. Mention that that's something I learned on how to see, how locked up you are. I've had some situations where I've changed the lock face geometry on this or that knife because it was slipping or spine wax, or messing up. And I don't really recommend it. It's definitely not easy, and it's not something that I would just have somebody send me their knife and I do that work for them, unless it was maybe a little bit less expensive of a knife. Fairly confident in my modding duties, but sometimes it gets pretty nuanced, and lock faces are one of those things that are nuanced, especially with button locks, especially so. Anyway, but when it comes to frame locks, I mean, dude, back on to topic, you don't really get much better than this, I don't think. By the way, the little jimpy jimps on the lock bar here, sometimes these bother me, I'll be honest. On the Banter, the Wii Banter, I don't care for that lock bar because it's so, you can't go in very far, and it just tears up my thumb, which is weird because I mean my thumb's got pretty roughed up from playing with knives all the time, and it's still, the Banter kind of hurts me. Ow, it hurts. Ben, stop making knives that hurt me. I can't handle it. No, but seriously, yeah, the Banter, and I actually modified one I ended up selling. I modded one to do a bigger cutout, and it worked out well, except I cut in too far. It ended up looking kind of polygonal, and it was weird, and it was okay. But anyway, I do like the Banter. What a great knife. I just don't care for that little hard jimpy jimps on the lock bar that cut into you. Apparently some of the compound composite, who's, you know who I mean, they did the carbon fiber scales. Unlocked Composite, is that who it is? Anyway, yeah, so they did the Banter scales, and those are awesome because they get more of a cutout. Okay, another huge aside. Okay, so that really is everything on my list. I think we did cover, here's the list, everything that I had to talk about on my list here that I really wanted to hit. This is like a half-hour video with like 10 minutes of actual information. Anyway, and I've been walking around for a good bit of it, so I don't know how good the audio is when I'm walking away from the camera. I may have to cut out large sections of this. Who knows? Maybe I'll just post it unedited and see if anybody's crazy enough to watch the whole thing. If you're still here watching this, then man, I commend you because I am just talking. Yeah. So, all right. So if I'm gonna make any kind of conclusion, right? In a conclusion, trying to wrap it up. If you've got $720 laying around, or if you can get it used for less, then and you really like this design, I would say go ahead and get this. If you had your mind set on the hand rub satin or the machine satin version, and you don't want to do DLC because you're afraid scratches will show or whatever, I am blown away so far at how well the DLC, like there's none of those little marks that show up. I guess I'll show you here to clarify what I mentioned earlier. When you have a knife, this is the Moyarl. Shoot, you're probably not going to be able to see it on here, but it has like these faint marks. Oh, of course you can't see them. Did I get them off of there? Maybe I wiped it with oil and got them off. Did I? Get out of here. You know what? I think I just refuted my own point because I think I was able to get those off of there. I'm kind of surprised. Well, anyway, so this PVD stands up great. And this is PVD. This is DLC. This is tougher than PVD. And this isn't even holding up because I was kind of like unashamedly cutting down cardboard boxes with this over Christmas, like for like gifts and stuff, just to like really just be like, yeah, okay, this is going to be a beater. I bought this with gift cards on Amazon. There's another side. What a great knife this is. So good. I can't believe this knife is like $50. It's wild. The Moral, what a great knife. Anyway, so yeah, I was just kind of playing willy-nilly and just doing whatever, cutting anything with the Moral, and the PVD has held up great. So you know DLC is going to hold up even better. All right, well anyway, so if you were considering an Evo 4.0 and you didn't, you know, if you like the look of the DLC, but you were like have some kind of like hesitation because of scratches, I wouldn't let that stop you. I have a very, very difficult time using higher end knives. I'm very guilty of like buying, you know, like I have trouble even using like $50 knives to do certain things sometimes. So I'm trying to get more into the, hey, if I own it, it better be something that I'm willing to use. And this is like the most expensive knife I think I've ever had that was begging to be used by me. I always want to protect them when they're expensive. This one, I don't have that feeling. Like I feel like I want to use it, like to the point where this could become one of my favorite designs of all time, or like maybe even like my one and done, like I just carry forever. Like this is that good. Like this is in like possibly as metal complex as Excalibur. This is like Excalibur territory for me, size wise, hollow grind wise, just the way the fit and finish is done, the manufacturing, just everything, the ergos, it's so attractive. I'm a huge Sharp by Design fan. That's my number one. Brian Nadeau. The Derecho pre-order, I just made the rest of the payment, so hopefully I'll have a video on the Derecho here in the next few weeks. Brian said within like a week or two he's expecting to get those out. I got the Frost Fat Carbon, which as far as I know is like a new Fat Carbon, newish anyway. That's going to be great. So I've got that. But yeah, so Brian's like my favorite designer, but John Sorensen just jumped up the list. I mean, big time, like for real. Like this is like I've you know bought and sold hundreds and hundreds of knives, and this feels like what do they say, like a pivotal moment. It's a turning point, a keystone, something like that. Anyway. If you are interested in this knife, I highly recommend you check out this knife, even if only to buy it and then sell it. I feel like this is probably one of those that counts as everybody needs to at least handle it, just like the Rosie, or you know, or like the Bug Out of the 940 or the PM2, or you know, like those are all knives that you would. I think most people would say, yeah, if you're into knives, you probably should know about these and know what they feel like, so you know what people are talking about because they're so popular. Well, this is kind of one of those. It's just on the more expensive side. So. All right, well, I've been talking, I mean, it's been like 40 minutes at this point, which is one of my longer videos in a long time. So if you stayed throughout to listen to all this unscripted rambling and me going on tangents, I really appreciate it. So I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So I'll get this uploaded and give everybody a little bit more information on the Evo 4.0 that there's not enough videos on. So, yeah, with the skiffs. Oh, here, last thing I'll do. Those original bearings were wrapped up so tight. Here's the original ones that come. They're just like skiffs. They have like, they don't have the cup. They don't have that cupping on them like skiffs do. They are, if I can get it over to this side. Yeah, they're just like that solid piece, just like skiff or Gillian's or, you know, like those. So yeah, it's like I bought skiffs and I guess I'm glad I did, but these bearings are such high quality. Like I probably wasted money buying the skiffs. I think the ball count might even be the same. Anyway, all right. That is going to be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this whole thing, you're a legend. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one.